what we're talking about in what I stated in the beginning, we're going to look at clarity and image clarity, and then your image message. And that's the other part of this. And I'll just briefly go over this. You can take your time and read through this later, but I'm going to just briefly go through this. But your inside story, your composition can help tell what's going on inside, who's feeling what and what's going on. And that's a great thing that I've learned about composition. You can help tell the subtext of any story. Okay. And there's some great examples here. You can read through some of these. But there's some great examples, and I'll just kind of cut to the chase with a few of these. I can back up here. Here's a situation in Casablanca. Elsa and Rick discuss their situation. On the outside, they're composed, but their emotions are complicated. This is the morning after they just met. In Casablanca, she ran out on him years before. They fell in love, had an affair, and then she left him as they were going to escape Germany or France. And when that happened, he didn't know why she left or disappeared. And then years later, she shows up with her husband, and it's a shock to him. And so he is emotionally distraught. He's really torn up. And he gets drunk and says some terrible things to her. And so the next morning they meet, and he just wants to know why. He was mean to her. She didn't deserve it. And she's conflicted inside because she did fall in love with him. Long story, but it's a conflicted love triangle situation. And here's the morning they're trying to make sense. He wants to get an answer, and it's all, the dialogue is short. Well, look at the image up here. She's got stripes underneath her garment in here. There's lines in the background. There's lines on his tie. It's all broken up in this kind of a chaotic manner, okay? And it's giving you this kind of conflicted tonal contrast underneath, okay? There's another situation where in this scene, Rick on the left is talking to Claude Rains, and Claude Rains is the local police, but he's really a puppet for the SS, the German police, okay? But he's telling him, I'm in charge of my own domain. Okay, I call the shots around here. Where Rick is hiding his past, he says nothing about his past. He's in a predicament. Everybody is, but he's got these secrets behind him, and so they show him with all these shadows and stuff behind him. Whereas the other is very clear. Now, in the next image, at the end of the conversation, Claude Rains gets up and steps right up to him in front of this same complicated background. Right when the door opens, and off screen you hear SS call out the policeman's name, Claude Rains' name, and says, so-and-so wants to see you right now, and he jumps. So his world's conflicted too. He was just telling people that he's okay and all this. But what do? The directors put him in front of this complicated background to expose the subtext of what the story is. So we have this at our disposal. And here's one of my favorites, that explains this. Now, this is from, of course, Wizard of Oz, and this is where Dorothy sings Somewhere Over the Rainbow. It's a beautiful ballad. It's her I Want song out of the movie. And compositionally, when you take a look at the shapes and the tonal contrast here, this is anything but rainbows and beautiful. Okay? She's singing this from her heart. She's singing this beautiful lullaby. At the same time, she's surrounded by this is her reality. And that contrast makes this moment much more dynamic. Okay? It makes it really, really interesting when your composition or your graphic statement is giving you some contradiction to really what's going on. It tells you what's going on, around her, or what her inner feelings are. In this case, she's singing her inner feelings, and we get to sit in her current world. And that's where, your image message is, you could just want to go out and do landscape paintings or just paint figures. That could be what you like to do and want to do. But you can also ask yourself, what do I personally want to say out of this? And let that guide you a little bit. You'll end up making paintings that are a little bit more personal, a little more interesting. And the viewers are going to find interest in that as well. If you're delivering a bit of subtext, a bit more information, and we can do it with our compositions. Here's another example of inside story. This was a movie called The Conversation, and Francis Ford Coppola. This is about Gene Hackman on the left plays Harry. He's a wiretap, a professional wiretap. He can hear anything. He can eavesdrop on anybody, anything, and he's doing it for this government agency. Okay, and he starts to hear things. He's recording things. He starts to hear transactions that are going on, and then people end up dying. And he starts to question his government and the people he works for. Are they assassinating all these people that he's tapping? So he's an accomplice, doesn't want to be accomplice, and he starts to implode during this movie. And by the end of the movie, you see him, this is one of the last shots of the movie, he's sitting, his hobby was his saxophone, and he's become so paranoid, he's peeled the walls, he's peeled the floor up, thinking that he's being tapped because of his guilt of hearing all this stuff. And so in the beginning, he has this false protection. He can hear everything, but he feels protected. He's wearing a transparent raincoat. Okay? And then at the end, he doesn't wear that coat anymore. He's no longer protected, and he's totally exposed, and he's exposing his environment. So that's a lot of times we'll see the change in a character. Catherine Deneuve in Repulsion, the one on the left, beautiful young woman. She's working in a salon, and she is imploding the same way, but she's imploding because all of these men are advancing on her, and she feels repulsed by all these advances and stuff. And it gets very abstract, like these hands coming through the walls. It's kind of a nightmare for her, but that's her on the right towards the end of the movie, just curled up on the floor, just, all disheveled. So I'll go through a couple of these images here. Now, I put these on here, and just to say, do you see any tension in the image below, and how would you ease this visual tension? Okay? And I'll draw this really quick. So, in the image as it exists, there's a little roadside. There's a hill coming down here. There's a rock here. There's a car here. There's a tree here. There's a little tree. There's another tree and a big tree here. And another tree going out here. And then we have these clouds and snow coming down in here. And there's another shape coming in here. So this is kind of what we've got in this composition. Okay? Now, remember early on, I was saying when you put something in the corner, it kind of freezes and flattens the image. Okay? Well, what's happening is the rock and this, they're stuck together. Okay? And they're the same size, right? Now, the car is moving up in this path, but it's stuck down in the corner. It's stuck to the rock and stuck in the corner. So, you can get the same kind of movement if, let me get this down here, if we've got this rock, let's just say, let's move the rock, but we'll make the rock go this way. I'm going to give it another, I'll give it another size, and another, instead of a circle, I'm going to give it spatial direction. See, a circle it's static. It doesn't have any force, any visual force. This has a visual force this way and this way. Does that make sense? Because a circle is a series of dots all equidistant from one dot in the middle. Has no point of view. It's completely static. Whereas this shape has force. I'm going to do this shape here as the rock. I can then put the car as something here. If I want to have it overlap that, I can, but I'm going to make sure there's a difference in scale. Okay? Because I have this shape here, it's going to keep me in the frame. You see, it's creating a directional element there, and I can make this shadow come over here, which eases that. This comes up here, something like that. If I want the mountain in the back, I can have a mountain in the back, and I can just have it come down here. It creates a little bit of tension in there, okay? Or I could have it come down in here, where it'd have decreased amount of tension in there. Right? There's a little bit less there. There's a little bit coming up in here. And now I can do this and have this coming up in here. And if I want to have my eye moving back around here, then I'm going to make sure I'm going to give some shapes that are going to do this, right? I'm going to be pushing the viewer's eye over here. And this one over here, I can have the viewer's eye move this way too. Okay? So I'm going to look to create shapes, maybe that do this. Maybe it's a shadow. I put this in shadow. And maybe I make sure that I've got something that is going to bring my eye back around here. And up here. And up here. So I've eliminated this tension that exists up in here because similar size stuck in the corner. Okay? And what I'm doing is I'm moving these things a little bit to help move your eye around. So I'm bringing these things around, bringing you down in here in a way, and I can even move that shape just a little bit like that. Okay? So I'm just adjusting a few of these things because they create more eye movement. They suit what needs to be said instead of just frozen, stuck and flat.